Hi, this is Dr. Quadri, your partner in emotional health. So I'm here to talk about a very important topic. As you all know, importance of parenting. I don't know how much I should emphasize being a child psychiatrist. I've seen people, parents coming to me, then talking about how they're struggling with their kids. Let's start with the three things: nurturing, development, building relationship, giving guidance. These are the kind of three things that as parents we can help our children. So as nurturing development, more of parents helping children grow up in a healthy and a strong in body and mind. It's very important to kind of have that the kids having that healthy relation, healthy growing up. And then the second part is that building relationship. Good parenting creates a loving bond and teaches kids how to connect with others. And kids, as you know, they need that guidance. They may feel like at the time to you they're defiant and not listening to you, but they're needing that guidance to make that decision from right and wrong, and obviously make good choices. So, what tip one? Establishing a loving and positive relationship. How do you do that? I mean, it's a question. So love and positivity, creating a environment that is kind of has that love and positivity in there. A warm atmosphere definitely helps with that. But what that means is keeping your child safe and feeling safe, and they feel like that somebody is caring for them. Um, and the other way to do that is like show love often. Uh, no matter how much time, how much it's never enough for them to hear how much we love them. So it's telling them you love them regularly is very important. So as when you do that, you're laying the good foundation. So this kind of relationship helps your child grow up emotionally and socially healthy. So tip two, most importantly, and it's a very important concept here, setting clear and consistent boundaries. Uh, it's not that easy because our parents have always asked me, how do you do that? You want to be there for them at the same time, set those boundaries. Um, the number one thing is kind of the rules are very important. Kids are very concrete, no matter how old they are, how young they are, they need clear rules. So you gotta set that clear rule that they're understanding what they are, what they mean. That you can't be vague about them. Um, and then to maintain, once you create those rules, you have to be consistent with them. So make sure the rules stay the same over time. So you're not changing, you're not, and you have to be consistent. Consistent meaning not only what that means is one parent says something else, he has one rule, and the other parent has a different rule. Both the parents have to be consistent in the same rule. So my suggestion is before you set the rules, the parents among themselves should talk and then set a rule that both parents are comfortable with, that they can follow through, they can be consistent with, because every parent has their own different way of raising children. So if you don't have the right rule, and if you're not believing that rule, it'll be very hard for you to be consistent as a father or a mother. Um, so then, like once that also teach them consequences. That the consequences that you have, that natural consequence, and then you have um the consequence that they just have they somebody has to give them or set basically what that means is they need to learn what happens if they don't follow the rules. So when I said natural consequence, what I mean by is so if they fall, what happen naturally, of course they're going to hurt. That's a natural consequence, right? It's an automatic thing. So there are consequences then that you as a parent have to set a consequence. So like if they break a rule that you set, so then here's a consequence for that. But it's not a natural consequence, but then for example, somebody like an adult example would be somebody going off fast in a 35 miles per hour lane, they're going 50 miles per hour. So obviously there's sometimes you don't have a natural consequences for breaking that rule, meaning you're not going to get to an accident or something bad's going to happen, hopefully. But the consequence that as you're breaking the law, so you're going to get a ticket. So explaining them, there's what's the difference between consequences and how they are. Part of the consequence, you're gonna get fair discipline. Um, and so discipline means doesn't mean that you're punishing them. So when you it's like a consequence where they feel like they have to, because you break the rule, and that's because if this happens, then this is going to happen. It's a fair thing. So explain to them why it is fair, why this rule is fair. If you break this, the consequences, how it affects you at them, and eventually in the long run, if they don't get that discipline, or it affects other people, and things like so. Explaining to them that it's not a punishment, it's basically kind of keeping law and order, being fair. So teaching responsibility, and that's a big one. And that's what parents always ask me, how do you teach responsibility? What makes them responsible? So again, following these guidelines is what responsibility comes. So sometimes a lot of the responsibility is sometimes you teach the kids, you have to teach them yourself by having these consequences, boundaries. That's how they learn responsibility. Sometimes they're gonna learn responsibility in the natural way. They break the rule, they see it, they experience life, they realize, oh, this happens. That in turn give them that experience, which helps them become more responsible in the future, so they're not making the same mistake again. It's having these conversations on a consistent daily basis, more mechanical conversation rather than emotional, where you're getting mad at them or angry, but more like mechanical. That helps them realize that, yes, I need to follow the rules. If I don't follow, consequences occur. Internal build responsibility. So number three, encourage independence and self-esteem. So that's another big one. Parents always ask me, like they kind of have that hard for them to let it go and give kids that independence. But it's very important to give them that independence, because in turn that builds that self-esteem. Um, so how do you do that? So one way to do that is trying new things, exploring, let children do new activities and make choices that are right for their age. So you can figure out and search and Google and look at what are some of the activities they can do they haven't done. And that could be learning a new, like, they've never played chess, learning a chess game. If they learn an activity like, horseback riding, they've never done, they could do that. Age appropriate activities, what you think they've never done, just explore and have them do that and then guide them. It's because when they're learning something new and they're kind of mastering it as they learn, they build confidence, help them become more confident and independent. Um, and then once they do that activity, and you want to always give them praises, even just for trying. Let's just say they tried the activity, it didn't work out that you want to, praise the effort, like just praise them for the effort that they made that leap and they tried it. Even though they were anxious at first and they didn't want to do it, but they did it. And so even just that praise is definitely gonna help them in the future to try new things and build that confidence, trying new things. And then, of course, coming with that is they try a new activity, it doesn't work out, they learn from those mistakes. And so then you teach them it's okay to make mistake and learn from them. And I always tell parents that the best way to also teach them to learn from mistake is tell them, give your examples when you failed and when you learned from this mistake and how you moved on from it, how it helped you build confidence and things. So that always builds that relationship, but they feel that they are talking to um like an adult, of course, but at the same time they're talking to somebody they can relate to. So giving your example is the best way to kind of relate and build that a relationship and build confidence within your kids. So in same line, boosting self-esteem. So what happens in turn when you praise and you have conversations, you learn from your mistake and you move on, it builds that self-esteem. They're like, I can do this in the future. They grow up feeling good about themselves and resilient. So they don't give up. They don't have that attitude of, like, a lot of times parents always come to me like, oh, my kids never, they just give up. They don't want to try again. They try one time and they just give up. It's a challenge. How to build that, change that concept from, not giving up and then just being resilient. So I can just trying these new activities, praising them and learning from success, having that concept over and over. Ultimately, when they see that it's, and they see you doing it too. So another thing is, if you did something like that and you come and talk to them, They see you're not giving up, you're doing it. It definitely helps. Um, so tip number 4, be an active listener and communicator. Yes, it's so, so important. We want our kids to listen to us, so we gotta be the example. So we gotta do that for them first. They need to see us listening, not only to them, but also when you're talking to somebody in front of them, you need to show them like you're an active listener. Like, so there's not only they're getting first-hand experience with you talking, and they're also seeing second-hand experience, you communicating like husband and wife, they're talking to each other, mom and dad talking to each other. Kids observe that, how you are talking. So when you're talking to your child or to your spouse, these are the things that you should be doing when you're talking. Number one, full attention. Listen closely when your child talks or somebody talks. It's like, make sure that you're listening. You're not just interrupting. You're there. You've got the whole message. It doesn't matter if you agree with them, not agree with them, whatever the case is, whatever. You're just first paying attention to detail, what they're saying. So listen closely. Show empathy. So what that means, understand and care about what they feel. Yes, exactly. So once you've learned, you've understood what they said, you've paid attention. Now you have to like either in terms of uh rephrasing what they said, or through your body language, you gotta show empathy. That you want to make the person in front of you feel like you've understood what they said, and you completely make understood, and then where they're coming from. Doesn't matter if you agree, disagree. It's you, the person in front of you should feel like, oh my God, this person understands. Then once you do that, then the thoughtful response is very important. Answering in a way that shows you've really heard them. So now the best way to do that is validate. Validation is so important, key in communication. What that means, validation means doesn't mean that you so that's a people always think validation means you agree with the person what they're saying. No, all it means is you've heard what they said and you kind of rephrase and tell them, this is what I heard what you said. So you're saying this and this. Let me clarify what you're saying. So these are sentences you can start. So let me use statements like, let me clarify what you're saying. Oh, I feel like I heard you were trying to tell me this is that right? Am I understanding you? And does that make sense? And so like, no, they're like, yes, it does. So this kind of talking helps build that trust, because now they feel like the person in front of you understands that your child feels like, oh my God, my parents understand me completely. And they're like, now they feel like they can trust you. So now when you make your comments, your opinion at that moment, you've already got the trust. So they have their eyes and ears towards you. You build that trust. Now you'd say whatever you need to say. So basically all it does, it teaches your kids to share their thoughts and feelings very well. This is a very healthy way of communicating. So it's, in other words, it's that how to have that assertive communication. And this is kind of the key tools to listening, empathy, responding in a very healthy way. Um, you know, that's just teaches our kids to have that active listener and a communicator. All right. So tip number 5. Again, I've said that earlier, lead by example. Kids watch and learn. Okay. Children learn by watching what their parents do. I mean, I know I just said that on others. So important. Be a good example. Show the behaviors as well as you want your child to learn. Yes, exactly. If you want a child to obey, follow the rules, make sure you do that. Because sometimes I see parents say things like somebody's on the phone asking for them. They tell the kids, I can tell them I'm not home, or things like that, or those small lies we think, or tell, things we think, oh, it's not a big deal. But kids, to them, it is a big deal because they're very black and white. So they think if you're doing that, it's okay, and they will do that. So you have to be very careful. Kindness and honesty, always be kind and honest in what you do. Like, again, all these things, show respect, treat others with respect, teaching by doing. Your actions are a strong way to teach your child these good qualities. Believe me, whatever you do, whatever you say, they're watching you. You'll be surprised. Your body language, your words, they're watching you. They are watching and observing you. So it may not look like at that moment from their behavior, but believe me, your consistent behaviors is what's going to help them in the long run. And then when you are telling them you need to do this, then then they will not argue with you. And they say, well, you're telling me to do this, but I saw you. They'll remember and they'll come back and tell you, I saw you, you were doing this to mom, you were doing to that, you were doing to your grandma this, your grandpa this. Why are you telling me? So they'll call on you. So they will make you feel like you're a hypocrite or something. So that's why, so when you are telling them this is do it and and they watched you in the past, you've not done it, they will remember and they'll come back. And it's very hard. So it's again, if you do make a mistake and you've done things you should not have, and they've noticed and they caught you, that's another very nice lesson right there for your kids to learn. Immediately at that moment, you need to accept, like take responsibility. Show them, like, okay, hey, look, I'm not perfect. I agree with you. I did that with my coworker. Whatever you did at that moment, it's like I completely agree. What I did, you're right. That was completely wrong of me to do that. I should not have done that. So, not a good example I'm setting you. Thank you for pointing out that I did this and I don't want you to do that and I don't want to do that in the future. So both of us, and then you tell that kid that at that moment, both of us are going to tell each other when we're going to do wrong. If and that just the way you're pointing to me, I'm doing wrong and I did, I'm going to correct myself and I'm going to do the same thing to you also. And then so we're going to correct each other. So it's like so now they're feeling that they're included in there. They don't feel like oh they're like you're above the law. They're like we're all included, we're all equal, and at the same time we're also nobody's perfect, and it's a perfect way to teach them that you're not perfect because sometimes we get they get this caught up in the world that everything has to be perfect. My parents feel like I have to be perfect. So no, the kids are not perfect. We are not perfect. Nobody's perfect. That's very, very important early on in their life. They need to learn that nobody's perfect, but we do make mistake. When you do make mistake, we are accountable and we rectify, we change, we learn from our mistake and we move on. So instead of getting an argument like, oh, why are you getting mad at them because they caught you? That's a perfect time for them to teach them how to be accountable. Perfect opportunity. Take that opportunity, show them what accountability looks like. I promise you, you're going to do very well in terms of building that relationship. And yeah, you're going to do very well. So again, in conclusion, parenting is a journey that involves learning and growing alongside your child. Exactly. You got to show your child that you're not perfect. You are learning and they're learning and you're growing together. Um, these provides general tip. It's also important to adapt a parenting approach to your child's unique personality and exactly. Every child is different. You're an individual parent, individual child. Everybody's different. These are just basic concepts. Apply them. Your personality plays a big role. And so you don't have to be a different. Just be yourself and teach your child to be yourself. And that's what's going to build that relationship. When you are yourself, the child is yourself, automatically the relationship is going to go like beyond you and your child or spouse. But it's because you're being yourself. Nobody's being fake. Everybody, we tell each other, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect. I'm accountable, you're accountable. We make mistake. We tell each other. We learn from each other. I mean, it's that and it just in itself, it's just you're gonna see changes in your life. Again, thank you for listening to Dr. Quadri. Um, I really appreciate. I'll see you in the next video.